Hello minions, Wheezy, aka Skylar, since I'm for real life here. My dogs are eating. You'll have to excuse the mess in my house. I wanted to make this video because yesterday, as I'm recording this, I don't know when I'll upload this video. Yesterday, they did the Xbox... King, stop it. Stop it. They did the Xbox One reveal, which is such a horrible name for a company that doesn't know how to number consoles, even though I was thinking about it, and other than PlayStation, numbering consoles isn't really a normal thing, so I don't know why they're bothering with going from Xbox to Xbox 360 to Xbox One, even though I realize it's an all-in-one. Stupid. Anyway, so some of you have already asked what I think about the new Xbox, even though it's real early on, they haven't given all the details, but what do I think about it? And so I'm going to give you some feedback on it, and also some of my feedback on the PlayStation 4, because a quick preview to what I'm going to talk about is the Xbox One reveal has really made me... Oh no, Xbox, don't listen to me. Xbox, pause! Oh no, I'm watching Firefly. Xbox, stop. We'll get to this with the Kinect integration. Xbox, stop. We will talk about why the Xbox One having Kinect always being on is not necessarily a good thing. And I don't think I've posted the video of it yet where I was playing Minecraft. But I was recording a commentary on Minecraft, and Sarah was watching Buffy on Netflix on the Xbox. And every once in a while, even though I wasn't saying Xbox at all, at least I don't think I was, it kept like pausing and fast forwarding her show because it kept thinking that it heard me say commands to it, which is stupid. So yeah, where to start? I mean, everybody's kind of focusing on really what's important to be focusing on, which is kind of the negative aspects early on, because to be honest, at the reveal, they basically said Xbox One is going to be an all-in-one entertainment center, which the Xbox 360 kind of already was, but then they're like, oh, it's going to have TV, and you can make the TV go snap so that you can split screen it with games, and you can watch TV waiting for your games to load. And I think they overestimate how much gamers are interested in watching TV while they play video games. Typically, if you're playing video games, you're doing that instead of watching TV. But, you know, I'm sure there's a market for people who don't already have a DVD or a TV box. I don't even know how that would integrate. Like, I've got Comcast, you know, I've got my little Comcast cable box, which is a monopoly, by the way, because there's really no alternative to Comcast unless I go with satellite and bundling. Anyway, so I don't know how it's going to tie in with an actual cable provider, but I don't care because I don't buy a video game console to watch TV on it. I have a TV. I have a cable box to watch TV on. That's not why I'm going to buy a new Xbox. I'm going to buy it for the video games. And one complaint that for any of you that have been around a while know that I had about the PlayStation 3, and for those of you, you know that I play a lot of Xbox, but you know, I have a PlayStation 3. That's a look at that. That's a 60 gigabyte launch model with the smart card readers and full backwards compatibility and all that stuff. My wife got that for me as a gift when I got back from, was it from the Japan trip or when I went to the East Coast? I can't remember, but she bought it right after launch. She paid $1,000 for that thing on eBay right after launch when they were all hawking them. So let's hope it doesn't come to that again. But anyway, so I got a PlayStation 3, and one of the things that always bugged me about it, and one of the reasons I never ended up really playing it as much as I did the Xbox, is... Could you stop growling? Lobo, stop it. Oh, my daughter's talking to me. Hold on just a second. Okay, sorry. Yeah, one of the things that always bothered me about the PlayStation 3 is how much it felt like it was trying too hard to be the perfect piece of consumer electronics. It was the all-in-one solution for your living room, which it really kind of is. But I felt like they kind of got away from what made PlayStation great, which is games. I mean, PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2 were all about games. You know, PlayStation 2 was one of the first kind of real good DVD players you could buy. It was my first DVD player in addition to just a great console, but you know, that it was about the games, and it also introduced a new technology. I was hoping that's what PlayStation 3 was going to do, you know. Going to be a good game console. It was also going to introduce Blu-ray. So that turned out to be a good portion of it, but they didn't do the gaming as well, and every time you put a game in, most of them had mandatory installs, so you had to wait a god-awful amount of time for it to install to your hard drive before you could even play it, and then every time you launched, there was a system update. You know, every time you turn on the console, there's a system update, which takes literally like an hour to install before you can even play the game. Then there's probably a game title update, which takes you forever to install before you can even get to playing the game. And you spend more time maintaining the console than playing the games. Xbox didn't have those problems, but now it's like PlayStation learned from all its mistakes. PlayStation 4 downloads all your system updates in the background. It lets you play the games as they're still downloading to the hard drive. You know, they're talking about doing everything instantly, so instead of the console taking 20 to 30 seconds to boot up, it's going to be like instant, and you can turn off the console, and it'll just store your current game state into the RAM, into a low power state, so that when you turn it back on, you can go right back to where you were in the game, which is great for anyone who's ever had a parent shut off their console right in the middle of the level. But anyway, you just notice I'm talking a lot about PlayStation 4, even though I wanted to talk about the Xbox One. And that's because after seeing the Xbox reveal, I went and I watched the PlayStation 4 reveal, which I had read about but I hadn't watched yet. And got me really excited. But let's talk some good things about the Xbox One. It's going to be basically a better Xbox. It's going down the... Technical specs aren't as important to me. The technical specs are pretty close on the two consoles. We could get into details, but we don't care about that right now. We care about games, and right now, Xbox hasn't shown much about games, but you can kind of figure it's going to be an Xbox, right? It's going to, you know, you're going to play Xbox games on it. It's going to be pretty much the same, but with better graphics, better performance. Every console comes with a Kinect, and not only that, but the Kinect has to be hooked to the console for it to work. Not the Kinect, for the console to work. The console won't work without the Kinect. That's something I read today. And I don't like that idea at all. They're you know, basically they're talking about it being, you know, let's talk about the good things of it. You know, the Xbox is off, quote unquote, and you give it a command, even when it's off, Xbox on, and the Xbox turns on. It knows you're there and it recognizes you and all that good stuff, so you don't ever have to, I don't know, use a controller if you don't want to for turning it on and stuff, which is a novel thing about the Kinect, even though it doesn't work very well in this version. Maybe the microphones will be better. But another issue, and I didn't ever buy like a wall bracket, is like mine's just sitting in front of my TV. I didn't mount it up there. That's the little thing from the Wii sensor bar that I don't use anymore. But I never bought like a mounting bracket or anything, so it sits right in front of the TV by the speakers, so if there's a movie going and it's a loud part of the movie, then a lot of times the Xbox can't hear me. So if I say Xbox pause, Xbox fast forward, all this stuff that they show you happening in all their commercials and their trailers, you know, unless you get a separate mount and you mount the camera away from the actual TV, there's a lot of audio interference from what you're watching. I don't, you know, they could do some noise canceling to balance that out, I think, a little bit better. Maybe they will. But anyway, that's what we've got to go on for the Xbox, is it's going to be an all-in-one entertainment center with Kinect integration, and you can watch TV at the same time you're waiting for a game to start. How long does a game start that you can watch TV, honestly? But they showed a lot of sports. You can watch the NBA. It basically is like, hey, Xbox, this is going to be a TV. But let's focus on the thing that everybody's been focusing on. Oh, did my phone just reboot? My wife probably called. She's on the way home. She'll probably interrupt this video. Anywho, and that's DRM. They're calling it digital permissions management. It's DRM. It's digital rights management. So basically, what they're talking about with the Xbox One is that retail disc games that you go to the store, you buy the disc in the case, is going to work exactly, basically, like Xbox Live Arcade games have worked in the past. And this is something I don't think a lot of people understand about the current Xbox, and everybody's kind of confused. How's the DRM going to work in the new Xbox? And I'm going to guarantee you pretty much 99% this is exactly how it's going to work, because it's currently how it works on the Xbox 360 for the arcade. And that is, when you download a game when you download a game from the Xbox Live Arcade, it's tied to your profile, meaning your gamer tag. It's tied to the console that you download it on, and it's also, I've noticed, tied to the hard drive you download it to. So those combinations of things, the hard drive is a little less strict, right? But it's tied to your gamer tag and the unique ID of the console that you downloaded it on. And you learn this, especially if you've had a red ring on your Xbox 360 with your Xbox Live Arcade games, because if they send you a new Xbox, or you buy a new Xbox, like when I went from my old one to the new, fancier, slimmer one, for the longest time, you'd have to call Xbox support to get your arcade games transferred to your new console. Because otherwise, the only way you could play your arcade games is if you were signed into your profile and you had access to the internet, which is what they're doing with retail games on this one. This is starting to sound familiar. If you put a disc game in your console in the new Xbox One, it installs to the hard drive, which sounds a lot like the PlayStation 3 mandatory installs, except this is going to be the entire game, because they say once you install it, right, you don't need the game in the system to even play it. And so as part of the, that's a nice feature, but what that is it's tying you into their DRM. Because that disc in the past has been how you authenticate, and it's like on PC, that's how you authenticate to the PC that you own the game. That's how you authenticate to the 360 and to the PlayStation 3 that you own the game, even though you can install Xbox 360 games to the hard drive and PlayStation 3 games to the hard drive. You still have to have the disc in the machine to play it, so it knows you own that game, right? Well, they're saying, well, now you don't have to do that, but the trade-off is now it's tied to your profile and that system. So the way it's basically going to work, and where it may end up being an advantage for someone like me with my setup, because I've taken advantage of this in the past, unless they close the loophole, right? Because we got 2 Xboxes. I've actually got 3 Xboxes, but we got 2 hooked up, mine and Sarah's. Is that, for instance, if I have an Xbox Live Arcade game that I downloaded on my system, and I want to play it on the big screen TV, if I want to play it on the big screen, then I have to sign into my profile on her system and re-download that game to be able to play it. She can't play it on her system using her profile, right? But if I download it to her system using my profile, right? If I use my gamer tag and download it to her console, then it ties to her console and my gamer tag. So anyone on that console, and this is how it's going to work with the Xbox One with retail games, mind you, not just arcade games, retail games. Any profile on that system that it was originally downloaded to can play it. So she can play it with her gamer tag, my gamer tag, Evie's gamer tag, when Sebastian has a gamer tag, play with all of those. But if you want to play it on another system, like my system, right, then I would have to sign into my profile and be connected to the internet so it can authenticate that I'm the one who owns that content. I'm going to continue here in a second because this video is about to cut. Okay, so that's basically how it works. Now, when I say where it could kind of work out for the way I do it, is there's a loophole in that, which I don't know if Xbox is going to close, because there's only way they could close it, which is to check and see if 2 people are playing the same piece of content simultaneously. Which, if you think about it this way, right? So say I'm playing a game, that I downloaded to her console and to my console. Unless it checks to see if they're both on at the same time, then it can't. Then there's a loophole, and I'm going to explain it to you. And at this point, I'm not really concerned. People probably know this loophole. But basically, the way it works is if I download a game, like there's a game I want, so works for digital games, but I'll use an example that we actually did it for. Left 4 Dead 2 is one of them. So Left 4 Dead 2, I downloaded it, the digital copy from the Xbox Live Arcade, right? But I wanted to play it with Sarah, and I didn't want to pay for 2 copies of it, right? And this is really a side effect of the fact that developers have gotten kind of lazy and they've stopped putting split screen into games to a large extent. So if I want to play with her, we each have to have our own copy of the game. Although it's a bad example because Left 4 Dead 2 does have split screen, but we'll move on past that right now. So what I would do is I would sign on to her console as Wheezy41, as my gamer tag, and download the game there. So any profile on that console can play that game. So she can play as Pip22 OSU on that console and play that game that I downloaded to my account because I paid for it. I can then go back to my console and I can re-download that game from my recent downloads because it's tied to my gamer tag, and then I can play that game on my console, but only when I'm signed in as me and only when it's connected to the internet. So if the internet goes down, my live arcade games that I didn't download to that console are useless. I can't even launch them. So that's the always-on part of the Xbox One that's going to be problematic, because if you're using that piece of it, or you get a new Xbox and they don't provide you with the same online license transfer tool they did for the 360, then you can't transfer it to the new console. They will do that. The way that it works now for the 360 is you can transfer all your content to a new console, I think, once a year. So if you get a new console and you want to transfer all your licensing over to the new console so that you can play it offline, you can do that once a year because they don't want you transferring it to a bunch of different consoles, I guess. You know, it's part of DRM, right? They're trying to keep you from putting the game that you paid for wherever you want. And I understand the aspect of not wanting you to distribute it to all your friends, because if you think about taking a retail game that installs to the hard drive of the system, but doesn't require you to leave the disc in the console to play it, you could give it to all your friends and they could all install it onto their systems, right? And then only one person has to pay for it, and that would be a bad deal. Make us leave the disc in the console, okay? That way we don't have to have this bullshit DRM and this always-on crap, because basically what you're doing is you're turning a retail disc into a digital download. That's really all it is. Basically, once you've slid that disc into your console, stop it, boys. What? Once you slid that disc into your console, yeah, giggity, and installed it to your hard drive, you can basically throw the disc away. I mean, they said, you know, if you uninstall it and want to reinstall it, you still need the disc. But you know, basically that disc is pointless because you've installed it, and I'm sure they're going to start doing day one releases on the arcade. You know how they have retail games that you can download digitally on the 360? This turns discs into digital downloads. Shut up, Xbox. Quit listening to me. Fucking thing. So that's basically what it's going to be. Is you're going to go to a store and buy a $60 disc that is just a digital key, right? The data's on the disc, but it's a digital key. And to play that game, you still have to have an internet connection. So even though you're not downloading the data, you have to connect to the internet to authenticate that you have the game and that you paid for it. And they're saying that they will provide a means for the used game market. But what I'm thinking they're going to do is they're going to allow you to give back your CD key. They haven't announced this yet. But what my guess is they'll allow you through some online system that they set up exclusive to them to give them back your CD key, basically deactivate that key to your account and say, I don't want to play this game ever again. Right? And you give them that key back, and maybe they'll give you some Microsoft points for it. If I had to guess, that's probably what it's going to be. So they're basically trying to kill the used game market in that way. And they say that if you buy a game used, so if you physically give someone the disc, right, well, your one-time use key is invalid. So when they try to launch the game under their profile, it's going to say, hey, you don't own this game. You're welcome to play it. You just pay us for it. And they've already said in a couple of interviews that essentially you will pay what that game costs on their digital network, right? So if it's a new game, you'll pay full price for it. So if you buy a used disc, all you're doing is putting it in your console and saying, hey, I want to pay you full price for a new digital copy of this game. And, hey, my wife's home. And that's kind of bullshit. And I guess I'll stop it here, but basically that's how the Xbox One DRM is going to work. People are still confused and they want details, but it's going to be pretty much exactly like the Xbox 360's Xbox Live Arcade DRM. The Xbox, what's it doing? Are you playing? This is why Kinect being always on is a bad thing. Stop! Xbox! Small soldiers, huh? Okay. Xbox. Stop. Stop. I'm right here, it's not even that loud. So anyway, if you guys want to hear more ramblings on this, let me know. I think I'm done. Who's that? Who's that? Sarah! Ooh, hello, lady. You looking nice. I was just recording a video about the Xbox One launch. Or preview of it. What the hell was that? What are you, basketball?
I'm about to play.
What up? I don't like that dark lipstick.
You didn't mind it when I worked for the wedding.
What wedding?
Amber's.
Oh yeah, I probably lied to you. Anyway.
Well, the
yeah.
single dads liked it.
Single dads?
Yeah, that's right.
I gotta go deal with some stuff. I'll talk to you guys later. This is a Romanian AK-74 rifle. Some may call this an assault rifle, but that is an incorrect term because this is not 10 rounds, 30 rounds, 10 rounds, 10 more rounds, 10 more rounds, 10 more rounds, 10 more rounds.